like to thank one of my subscribers, JG, for sending this story August 7th, 2018. For most U.S. workers, real wages have barely budged in decades. That is outrageous. On the face of it, these should be heady times for American workers. U.S. unemployment is as low as it's been in nearly 2 decades, 3.9%. But you know what? Again, more fake numbers, ladies and gentlemen. They're not counting the people that are no longer collecting unemployment, and that's a lot of people. So that's how they get away with publishing such low numbers for unemployment. And the nation's private sector workers have been adding jobs for 101 straight months. 19.5 million since the Great Recession related cuts finally abated in early 2010, and 1.5 million just since the beginning of the year. But despite the strong labor market, wage growth has lagged economists' expectations. In fact, despite some ups and downs over the past several decades, today's real wage has about the same purchasing power it did 40 years ago. And what wage gains there have been have mostly flowed to the highest tiered workers. But you know what? Even I noticed that. Even like over the past few decades, I still see them offering jobs at the same wages. And it really has not increased. It should be increasing under normal circumstances, but we know these folks run every damn thing like crooks. They always want the most work for the least amount of money. That's how America has always operated. If they could get us all out here working for free, they'll do it. American paychecks are bigger than 40 years ago, but their purchasing power has hardly budged. The disconnect between the job market and workers' paychecks has fueled much of the recent activism in states and cities around raising minimum wages. And it also has become a factor in at least some of this year's congressional campaigns. Average hourly earnings from non-management private sector workers in July were $22.65, up 3 cents from June, and 2.7% above the average wage from a year earlier, according to data from the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's in line with average wage growth over the past 5 years. Year-over-year growth has mostly ranged between 2% and 3% since the beginning of 2013. But in the years just before the 2007-2008 financial collapse, which America goes through virtually almost every decade, they go through a financial collapse because that just shows that this country is very poorly ran. Average hourly earnings often increased around 4% year over year. And during the high inflation years of the 1970s and early 1980s, average wages commonly jumped 7%, 8%, and even 9% year over year after adjusting for inflation. However, today's average hourly wage has just about the same purchasing power it did in 1978, following a long slide in the 1980s and early 1990s and bumpy, inconsistent growth since then. In fact, in real terms, average hourly earnings peaked more than 45 years ago. The $4.03 an hour rate recorded in 1973 had the same purchasing power that $23.68 would today, and that's per hour. Yeah, the wages have never kept up with the inflation in this country, never. Okay, so as you can see in this chart, not found, never mind. Let me go back. I thought I could click on it and make it bigger, but I can't. So you can see wages increase in the US rise to be the top earner, the top earners. So these are the people in the big positions. They have seen the biggest wage increases, but the small workers that are in non-management position have seen the most stagnant type increases. In fact, not really that much of an increase at all when you look at it in terms of the last few decades. Okay, meanwhile, wage gains have gone largely to the highest earners. Since 2000, usually weekly wages have risen 3% among workers in the lowest tenth of the earnings distribution, and 4.3% among the lowest quarter. But among people in the top tenth of the distribution, real wages have risen a cumulative 15.7% to 2,112 a week, nearly 5 times the usual weekly earnings of the bottom tenth, $426. So I'm not surprised. Like I said, this country has always been about getting away with paying the lowest amount possible to the people. And as you can see, nothing has changed, nor will it ever change. As long as everything is ran by the same people, don't expect anything to improve. It's not going to improve. Nothing's going to improve in this country. I'm not surprised that wages are stagnating for so long, 4 decades. That's a long damn time for wages to be lingering around the same amount of pay. So, so there's telling you, even going back to the 80s, you can see some of the same wages being made today as you did it back in the 1980s. That's ridiculous. But of course, they expect you not to complain or say anything about it, although it's not keeping up with the inflation that's going on out here. It never does. So just tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not surprised at all, because if you look at America's whole foundation in this country, they are about making money and giving as little as possible. These people are just not givers, they are takers. And that's the history of America. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.